He was indeed projected to win this, John Heilemann. No big surprise. Can he help reunite a party that feels pretty splintered right now?
He's a well-liked figure in the party, and he's the person who really ultimately has to bring this party back together on the House side, at least, is John Boehner. And because of the fact that Boehner, this is the guy that Boehner wants to work with, he strengthens Boehner's hand and the ability to potentially, if there is a way to knit this all back together, it gives, I think, Boehner the best chance to do that. But it's not going to be an easy thing to do.
Jonathan Allen, is he going to be more successful, do you think, than Eric Cantor in some of these efforts?
No, I don't think he's going to be particularly more successful than Eric Cantor. I think the House leadership is a lot weaker now than it was 6 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago when Tom DeLay ruled with an iron fist. So I think it's going to be very difficult for him. I don't think he's somebody who's looking particularly across the aisle right now. He's going to try to bring these guys together. We'll see what happens. I think there are also potentially some big races coming in November or December if Boehner decides to step down.
You know, but this is the guy that was supposed to really typify sort of the new breed of republicanism, right? I mean, along with Eric Cantor, he wrote Young Guns. Is he representative at all of something new?
You know, he's not a dynamic figure. He is popular inside, but like John Boehner and Mitch McConnell, he's a great inside player. Is this guy going to go on, you know, Jay Leno or not Jay Leno? Thank you, being a little bit out of date. Is he going to go on Jimmy Fallon? Is he going to go on Fallon and be some national figure? Possible to do from the House. We've seen leaders do it. I don't think he's a smart guy, but he's not ideological. I've never known him to be. No one has ever suggested to me he's a dynamic policy thinker about how to take conservative ideas and make them more broadly accessible to the country, which is really what the party needs right now. So he's a placeholder.
What's interesting to observe about him, though, is that he comes from a district that's 30% Hispanic, roughly 28 to 32% Hispanic. So how is that going to impact him in terms of when he talks about immigration reform, or will it not?
Because we've seen how well that's
exactly it.
Right?
It plays well. It plays well in the Republican orbit. On the national stage, it plays very well. So we'll see how isolated he is.
But it's been an incredibly challenging issue.
Sure.
Do you think he can carry forward the immigration platform? I mean, or has that been pretty much proven dead in the water?
I don't think it's dead in the water. Certainly, it's dead in the water for this year. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, we're going to come back after the 14 elections, and John Boehner is going to have a year, along with President Obama, to conceivably govern. And immigration is going to be back on the table. Republicans are going to face, as they have previously faced, but they're going to face in a very acute way, a big choice about whether they are going to make moves that are going to put the party on a national level on the right side of that issue, on an issue where they need to do better with Hispanics in order to be a national governing party. I think that John Boehner would like to get that done. I think Kevin McCarthy will want to be a partner with him in getting that done. But the deep divisions in the party are not going to go away after 2014, especially in a race when they gain seats.
If they're ever going to be a national party with a strategic vision, they need some prominent people from California in leadership. He helps with that. He's got to figure out a way to be from his district representing Hispanics, talking about the issues in California, which always are important.
But see, in a way, it's very good that he comes from a district that has a Hispanic population because it makes it easier for him to advance this idea. Also, and we keep talking about the importance of having a big tent. They've got to get more minorities. They've got to get more women. They can't be the party of sort of the old.
He has very strong ties to Silicon Valley, which helps too.
Yep.
Indeed.
I actually think it might be easier to get it done if you had somebody from a district that didn't have a big Hispanic population, that had historically been against immigration reform, doing the leadership, like a Nixon in China kind of thing, because what you've got with Kevin McCarthy here is exactly what you had before, which is a Republican leadership that wants to do immigration reform and can't do it because the membership isn't with them. And he doesn't change that dynamic. Now, maybe it's Steve Scalise.
Right? He doesn't run an Eric Cantor situation.
But it's deeper than that. The reason the membership isn't with them is because the party isn't with them.
Right.
And so that split in the party is not going to get narrower after 2014. Because you're going to see Republicans gain seats in the House, most likely, and you're not going to come back with a party that's going to be suffering a repudiation in 2014. They would be more likely to do immigration reform. The divisions will be deeper after 2014, after Election Day 2014, than they are today.
But, John, that's really unique to the structure of the House. Let's remember, Republicans and Democrats have been able to work effectively in the Senate, immigration reform, the Farm Bill, infrastructure. In the House, you have a unique situation that doesn't reflect necessarily how the Congress, it reflects how the House works in terms of the fact that Tea Party caucus paralyzes the minority, paralyzes the Republican leadership and the Democratic minority. And so it's interesting watching this play out legislatively as to whether, like you say, there'll be a national party, just remain a fraction of a minority.
Or a party that has congressional control and continues to happily control the House for many years to come, but can't win a presidential election.
What about his relationship here to big business? I mean, because this is something that Eric Cantor worked very well, was well-liked, shall we say, on Wall Street, got a lot of Wall Street money. You mentioned he's got ties to Silicon Valley. What about Wall Street? John.
He does absolutely have ties to Wall Street. He's not like Eric Cantor. I think there's going to be a little bit of a vacuum there. A lot of people trying to rush into that. He has huge ties to Silicon Valley. His district's not particularly close to Silicon Valley from Bakersfield, but
I love this. We've broken it down, by the way, for the viewers. $73,000 from Goldman Sachs employees and PACs.
That's why he's smiling in that picture.
And what an irony that he's replacing the man who was beaten in his primary largely as being seen as a tool of the Chamber of Commerce and big business corporate republicanism.
I mean, that's the danger, right? That's the danger, especially with the Tea Party, which theoretically, you know, if you really are fundamentally conservative, you should be pro-big business to a certain extent, but it actually hurt Eric Cantor.
Yeah, well, look, neither of those guys are fiery populists, neither McCarthy nor Cantor. Yep. I'll tell you one thing this could unlock a little bit, which is the president has made it pretty clear. Eric Cantor, not his favorite guy, right? and a lot of people in the Democratic Party feel that way. McCarthy's a little bit more likable from the point of view of a lot of Democrats, both on Capitol Hill and certainly in the White House. I think if it's possible that the key to getting something done this year or in a lame duck session, or even next year if Republicans keep the House, which they probably will, I think McCarthy could be a better ally, a more likely ally for this president than Eric Cantor was ever going to be.
What about, as we speak, Kevin McCarthy's speaking to House Republicans right now. He's talking about unifying the party. He's talking about his experience of coming to Congress in 2006, and they were in the minority. He said they pushed conservative ideas and unified behind them, and that's what brought them to the majority. Not necessarily sure I agree with his analysis there, but that's what he's telling House Republicans behind closed doors. So
Kevin McCarthy's rising up in the ranks. We now have a majority whip position open. Anybody taking bets on that one, or is it just too unpredictable right now?
Scalise is supposed to be the winner. He's certainly getting strong support from Republican leadership and certainly from Republican members I speak to. Three-person race, as John pointed out, is always a bit traumatic. But very frankly, I think what they need in this caucus is an anger management therapy, more than have to worry about more votes. I mean,
how do you think Scalise would work with McCarthy?
Well, I think. Look, these House Republican leaders in particular, there's tension on the Democratic side as well. But historically, for the last couple decades, there's always been some personality tensions there. I think this team may have fewer of those, at least in the short term. And I think, you know, what impact that has, I don't know. Maybe it frees up Boehner to do something different. But I think it's good for Boehner, even though he's closer to Roscoe, to have Scalise there, because it gives conservatives, Tea Party conservatives, some of the younger members who want a radical change, it gives them somebody in leadership. Let's see what kind of vote counter he is. McCarthy was not a great vote counter for whip.
Well,
that's kind of the job description.
Line, if the leadership can't deliver a majority of its own caucus, what's the purpose of the leadership? That was Boehner's problem. That's why the House was paralyzed.
Well, need some leadership for sure.